Howdy, howdy, howdy. Here we are back on Thursday again. Looks like Andy's a little busy over there. Got his drill hanging out of his pocket like some kind of Western cowboy. Mr.
Yeah,
Fast.
they had quick draw.
Yeah.
And I'm quick draw, and I just threw my drill bit. So I hate these hand chucks. I mean, they're convenient and everything, but they don't lock down very good. So,
Yeah, they do.
well, maybe I'm just,
You're not holding your mouth right.
well, that's right. I mean, there is a chance that, that I'm not, strong as a pipe fitter. I am a bit spoiled as, being an IT guy for a number of years. I'm, probably not as equipped as a pipe fitter or something, but.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll let some people get on in here in the chat. So I had computer problems, so I had to manually post it, and everything kind of got a little cattywampus.
What you been up to, brother?
Not a whole lot, just working on a bunch of stuff.
Oh, I doubt that. I know you. You're always up to a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, spent most of the day down in Atlanta. I'll be back down again in a few days and then back next week again. And it's just back and forth. Let the truck get low on gas, a lot lower than I normally do. Cost me $120 to fill it up.
Everybody's letting them get a little low right now. I mean, every time you go, with you have to look at an empty wallet after the fact. Yeah, it's a little
Well, I try not to let it get below half a tank.
sure.
That truck's got a 38-gallon tank in it.
Well, I mean, listen, buying gas right now would be rough in a Geo Metro, which I mean, I don't guess they have Geo Metros anymore, but it's rough in anything these days.
Yeah. I spend half hour on the internet looking for the cheapest gas around me. I found it when I went to fill up for $3.50.
Yeah, that's not. That's well.
Most places are $3.89. Well,
Yeah, I mean, I think we're
what
kind of
they
stuck
call
in this for a little while, though.
tier one stations are the most expensive. That's all your brand names like your BP's and Shell and all them.
Yeah.
I buy from Sam's and other places. All right, where'd the cursor go? We'll get
It went
Ralph in here. How you doing, Ralph?
I think I'm all right. How about you?
Yeah, not bad. I
And
woke
there's,
up this morning and shook real hard and nothing fell off, so I figured I was doing pretty good.
I wished I could shake in the morning. I wake up and I'm very gingerly walking around until probably about an hour after I wake up.
Yeah.
They with the back problems that I've been having, they've since found out that I had a what do you call it, compression fracture in my spine on the L1, L2 vertebrae.
wow.
Be able
So
to do anything about it?
it happened at the beginning of COVID, and there was no way I was going into any hospitals.
Yeah.
So I just suffered through it, and now it's a matter of putting up with the pain.
Hmm.
I'm not sure they could have done anything except immobilize me, I guess, at some point.
I don't know. It seemed like they're starting to do a lot more fusions and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. I'm not sure I want my spine opened up for anything.
Yeah.
And they got those replacements for the disc now.
Well, there is that. There
Yeah.
is that.
If you could get those, yeah.
Yeah, it probably came from the same factory as making chips.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
So, well, you say you get up and you shake things and nothing falls off. Other than that, how have you been doing?
Did all right.
It's been a while.
Staying busy with the estate stuff.
So look at that. We got this guy Robert in here early tonight.
Yeah, no.
Holy mackerel.
How we doing, boys?
And he's in the kids' room.
I was trying to think of a smart aleck comment to make about him being sent to the kids' room.
It's a multi-purpose room.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I could show you if you really don't believe me, but I think you're just giving me a hard time to give me a hard time.
Yeah. Well, we got a new fella in here, High Plains Railroad. How you doing? Sparky's in. Samurai. Let's see, Ken, Ethan. We're getting a few more in here now.
All right. Howdy, boys and
Howdy,
girls.
howdy.
So, Robert, what have you been up to?
A lot and nothing at all.
A lot. You were on vacation.
Yeah, I was on vacation for a week, which is always good. While I was on vacation, I managed to get exactly 40 in-scale turnouts built.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have them finished yet, but they're built. Now I got to figure out how to build two more double crossovers.
You have to figure it out. I thought you already knew.
No, I've never built a double crossover before.
Really?
Really?
It's not that difficult. It's like building 4 switches and a crossing.
Oh, yeah, that's the crossing part that concerns me.
Oh no, you follow the instructions, it's easy.
Well, there's the other problem, right? I got to get the instructions first.
I thought you downloaded them the other night.
I might have. I don't know, man. I'm so lost right now.
Okay.
Randall just popped in, so did Why You Run Naked.
Some of these names I've never heard before, like High Plains
Yeah, he said he was new.
and Yigoku, Samurai.
Oh, Samurai, he's been around for quite a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Ken Amos Jr.
Ken's the old time. That Sparky guy, I'm not too sure about him.
I don't think anybody is. He just keeps popping up when you don't expect him.
Yeah.
That guy.
Well, his wife says he's not bad, so hey.
Yeah, but I think she's
that's a
obligated
matter
to,
of
right?
opinion, right? That's a matter of opinion, yeah.
Yeah, he said even I don't know who I am.
If you don't know, we're in trouble.
Real artist just popped in.
Another one, rail artist.
He's been around. Yeah. Poor Bill starts texting me going, when are you going to tell the scale? We got next week, April 13th. It's going to be the track planner. It's Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. April the 20th, we've got who's Big Bill talking to? He'll be talking to Mike Dettinger. He's been around for a while. He's one of Barry Rozier's friends. been doing mile railroading in quite a while. They're going to be talking about T-tracks. Then my show will be back on the 21st. And I think Bill's working on one more show. Not sure. Plus, Mike is giving Bill a rundown on a series he would like to do.
Yep.
Johnny, can you email me that list?
What list?
The one you just rhymed off.
I did. Yeah, I got your email, hadn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get to you.
Cool.
Oh, Dwight's in the house. Watch out.
You got the you got Mile Railroad account, hadn't you?
Yeah, probably, but I never check it.
Oh, okay.
Ethan Armitage. My name is Ethan A. So, Ethan Armitage, why don't you put your first name and the A as your moniker? Welcome in the house.
Can you hear me, Andy? Hey,
Me? Yeah.
Sparky said he wanted you. Of course, this is a good way to make an advertisement, too. He said, I want you to come to Stroudsburg on May 2022. He wants to meet his idol.
He wants to do what?
He wants to meet his
He
idol.
wants to do what? Yeah, I'm sure that's true. I would like to go to Strasbourg at some point.
Believe me, Sparky. No, never mind.
Listen, the guy's head is fat enough. Okay, we don't need to add to it.
That's right. His head's big enough as it is.
Do you see that big old nugget he's got on his head right there? That's from walking into the door frame because its head's so big.
Yeah, I have to kind of swing out wide or something.
He tried to tell us he got poison ivy, but
Yeah, I'm calling BS because he's not an outdoor person.
and he kept himself off screen
No, but
during
I
that
think
whole
he-
time.
Not only did he keep himself off screen, he didn't show up to the nightly chat for like a week and a half.
That's right. Well, that's because he couldn't see.
I didn't know. I didn't want to explain leprosy.
He got well. No, Angie gave him a beating, so he had to wait
Yes,
for
she did.
the eyes swelling to go down before he could.
That's right.
He needs to talk to
I
Big
learned my
Bill.
lesson, though.
Big Bill's got a good remedy for getting rid of black eyes pretty quick.
Oh, yeah? Got a trick for that? I mean, he hasn't been married a long time. That makes sense.
You know, George Ann keeps a tight hand on him.
I mean, you can just do what I do and fight back. It's much more fun and entertaining when you fight back.
Yeah, Randall, I think that may be the weather since your internet's not too strong to start with.
Yep. It's really windy. High Plains is trying to decide to do a regular 4x8 N scale layout or do a shelf layout. Doing his N scale, first N scale layout.
Who is?
I would say
High Plains Railroad.
I would say don't waste your time with a 4x8. Just do a shelf layout. You'll be much happier in the long run.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And why did he come up in blue?
Take the 4x8
Oh.
and split it down the middle, and you have a shelf.
So Johnny,
Plenty of
real
real
quick,
estate.
you see on the right hand side, you got the chat coming through.
Yeah.
If you click on any one of those, it'll pull it up to the actual screen.
Yeah, I knew that, but it turned blue over here on my side.
Yeah, it turned blue on my side too.
It hadn't been doing that before. Hey,
What?
So
I'm
I think that's
controlling the
something we
show.
all kind of come to realize. What?
Nothing. Keep going.
Oh, I think something we all kind of realize that as we mature in the hobby from the early days is to basically never think table of any kind of form factor. Don't think about it ever as a table. It's always about shelf construction, regardless of how you actually do it. And you can find this online. There's plenty of these arguments about that. If you take a 4x8 layout and have any space to get around that whatsoever, minimum you're going to need 8 foot by 12 foot or something to walk around it. Or even if you shove it against the wall in some direction, you're going to need something similar. If you do a 1 foot wide shelf all the way around that room, you have a whole lot more actual meaningful aisle space or whatever. And you have twice or 2.5 times the amount of run and the value of the run and the repurposability of those shelves if you grow the layout in any direction in virtually every way you can conceive of building some 1 foot shelves and build them, frame it or whatever, or buy a handful of hollow core door slabs for $30 a piece. It's spectacularly, the argument for a table has always been buy a sheet of plywood. It's quick and easy to build a layout. But 4 hollow core doors to build a frame around a layout, that's impossible to get easier than that. And you're still talking like $100 for a bunch of door slabs.
Well, you can even do cheaper than
If
that.
you're looking for an
Go
easy
to
one.
one of the reclaim centers. Like Habitat has those reclaim centers where
Yeah,
you can
sure.
get doors and get them cheap. The
I miss
bifold
those.
closet doors
Knoxville,
for N
Tennessee had a
scale.
place called.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Knoxville, Tennessee had a place. I forget what it was called. Railroad something. Railroad related because it was down. It wasn't railroad related, but it was a former railroad building, and it was something. And you could go buy those door slabs all day long for $5 a pop. So
Convince your wife that you need new closet doors. The bifold doors need to be replaced.
Yeah.
Yep. And 11 1/4 wide. Most of them are maybe 14 or something, but a lot of them are 11 1/4. That's kind of the perfect
Well, for N
size
scale,
for a
that's
small.
perfect. That's perfect for
Absolutely.
N
Even
scale.
for HO scale, most of the time a foot wide's great.
But they have to be flat doors. They can't have that pushed in molding or any of that weird stuff. It ain't gonna work too good.
Yeah, that's why we said slab doors.
I never thought about the hollow core doors there. For a closet, so bifolds, Ralph.
Yep.
That'd be good too.
Yep.
That'd be pretty much the right width even for HO.
Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to make them even lighter, you can go on the underside and just with a utility knife, you can cut openings on the bottom.
They don't weigh much anyway, though.
No, that's true too. That's because they're hollow core doors. Man, I wouldn't want to do that
Absolutely.
to a solid
Which
door.
part? Oh, no. But the hollow core doors, one of the ways that they are significantly stronger than the materials alone, they're better than the sum of their parts. Part of that is because they're built kind of like not exactly a torsion box, but the fact that they are those multi-plies that are not violated makes them quite a bit strong. Although you could cut some holes out, it wouldn't hurt it really. Like one of my favorite construction methods, like Ken Anderson and those sipping and switching guys who build the hollow wing architecture, so it's, Luan and it's like they kind of build something similar to a hollow core door, kind of.
Now, CV Railroad NHO scale is saying 1/2-inch birch ply, $79 at Lumberyard this week. My personal preference is not 1/2-inch plywood. It's 5/8. And the reason being that extra 1/8 of an inch gives you a little bit more strength in the plywood so it doesn't sag between your supports.
Because nobody likes them when they're saggy.
Exactly. You watch your train going like this. It'd be like a roller coaster.
So there's also a type of plywood that I've heard about from so the woodworking stuff that I've become a fan of watching. Starts with an R. I don't know what it is, rid something or whatever. It's just plywood, but it's a particular grade of plywood. Get it in 5/8 or whatever, but it's not as expensive as birch, but is a high quality and A grade on one side with no gaps. That's the biggest thing that makes birch plywood and any of the high grade plywood so valuable as structural medium is it doesn't have, open air spots in the glue. Its assembly is a better quality. I can't remember what that version that's called, what that is that starts with an R that is just basically pine, spruce, or fir, or spruce, pine, or fir SPF plywood. So it's not as expensive, but it is no gap. The 5/8 would also be like 10 ply or 11 ply, something,
No,
something a
not
little better than the 5
necessarily.
ply.
Not necessarily. Could
Sure.
be 5. Like it
could be.
doesn't have to be furniture grade plywood. Maybe on your fascia if that's what you want. But what you're putting on top of it, you're covering it with all your scenery. You're covering it with all kinds of plaster and all kinds of crap. You keep talking about plywood with voids in it. Voids don't mean a thing. When they sell plywood, they usually go over those voids with putty and they smooth it out. They run it through a milling machine. That's fine. If you find voids in yours, do the same thing before you lay your track.
Yeah, that's way down inside the layers. The outer sheeting on both sides won't have those.
I use 5/8 flooring grade for all of my layout, and it works just fine. And because of it's slightly a rougher surface, it's a stronger bond when I put my plaster cloth or my plaster of Paris or whatever, or glue something down because there's more of a surface to grip it.
Which I virtually never want to use plywood personally for some road and eating. But one thing that I do think plywood particularly valuable for is as opposed to 1x4s. I don't care a lot for dimensional lumber. 1x4s. I mean, it was a tree last week. So, I mean, if you're going to stack it and dry it or buy the much more expensive 1x, fine. But if I was building a lot of more traditionally framed nail girder or otherwise, I'm not going to do that. But if I were inclined to do that, I would rip plywood. I would buy the 5/8 or something of a SPF, pine or whatever. But a decent grade of that, I'd rip it into 4-inch spaces and make the 1x4s. And that's where gaps start to give you some, voids start to give you some loss of lateral strength.
If you're going to
And
cut
voids
plywood,
would make it a twist easier.
if you're going to cut plywood into 4-inch strips to do some sort of framing, then you better get the furniture grade, because if you don't, you're going to split it with screws if you go in the end grain.
Yep.
So
that's why
I would never use plywood for the framing.
Ken Amos made the comment: 9-ply, 3/4-inch birch plywood is $172 a sheet where he's at, and he's a cabinet maker. The wood is ridiculous.
Yep.
And I love the look of birch plywood, beautiful. But I don't have a use for birch plywood in modern railroad construction. I do like the higher quality, no void SPF or pine plywood. I do prefer that, but I can't justify birch for anything but maybe the cabinets that go under a layout.
My entire layout's built out of dimensional lumber, 1x2s and 2x2s and 1x4s.
And I took 1x6. 1x8 and split it down the middle to get it was 3.5 instead of 4.
It works. Many layouts, hundreds, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of layouts for 70 years have been built with dimensional lumber. but I despise dimensional lumber for pretty much
Okay,
everything. I like
so
sheet goods.
what you have to do in that case, Andy, when you start talking about it, you have to say that it's your opinion instead of saying
Well,
this is
that's
the way it should be.
oh, I never say it should be. That is never the way I would ever say this. I always come from my opinion. And as I clearly state, dimensional lumber has built thousands of or tens of thousands of layouts successfully for many years. I just personally despise dimensional lumber. I don't like the twisting and the bucking, and I hand lay track, and I want everything to be to a much higher dimensional accuracy. So if I was going to build, my modules are built with sheet goods. If I was going to build, in a more traditional form, I would rent plywood.
Well,
And also, a lot of model railroaders rent plywood to build their framework. This is not I'm not being obtuse here. This is not uncommon for model railroaders to do, as I'm suggesting.
well, before we get going again, Tom Strange and things just popped in. He hadn't been in a while. How you doing, Tom? And Human said he just came in. So did Dave BNSF. BNSF. All right. Ralph and Andy can go back at it again.
No, I'm not going to go back at it. Sorry.
No. Hey, we don't really disagree. I mean, I'm definitely saying there's nothing wrong at all with dimensional lumber. But I'm very gently applying that I personally do prefer sheep.
Hey,
sheep goods.
Listen. Stop being a yes man and stick to your guns.
I am. I'm holding my position right now.
Oh, Ralph is still in a share there.
There's my layout when I did the framing.
Yeah. 1x4s. There you go. See?
It's not even 1x4. It's 3.5. Like I say, I split the 8 in down the middle. And basically, all of my layout is a 2x4 frame attached to a 2x4 frame all the way around until I got to the door here where I have, which is behind me. This here is supporting my yard. This is my turnaround space at the front here. And on the back of the picture, like that you can't see from the behind the camera, is my helix. So that room is 9.5 by 19.
See, there's the only place I differ with you is I won't use 2 by anything anymore.
No, I don't like 2 by much either. If you want to build legs or something, 2 1-bys.
No, I didn't use any legs. I didn't use any legs.
Oh.
There's no legs. There's one right there, a 2x2.
I have no legs.
All the rest is fastened down to the wall.
Yeah. That's cool. I've never seen this early. Well, if I have, I don't remember seeing one that was this early. I mean, I remember us talking about your brown paper, craft paper.
Well, yeah, that brown craft paper on the wall, I designed it 1-to-1 the way I wanted it on the paper, then laid the paper down on the tabletop.
Yep.
There you go, Ralph.
Yeah, I was doing that originally too. Yeah.
But you don't have no legs, Lieutenant Dan.
Right. Yeah, so we can call you, instead of Lieutenant Dan, we can call you Matt.
See, and here's one of my earlier photos before I really put any legs on anything.
There you go. And
It's
that's
all
shelf.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. I mean, I can, if you want to go back into the Wayback Machine, I can pull up photos of my original layout and show you what not to do.
Yeah, the 4x8. 2 4x8 side by each.
Let me pull those. Let me pull those up for you. Everybody should get a kick out of these. This is definitely
what not to
style.
do. You say?
Yeah.
Well, it's not a matter of what not to do, except for what Andy's doing now.
That is definitely a what not to do.
What not to do. He wasn't thinking when he did that.
Does he ever really though? I mean, let's be honest.
It's coming down. That's coming down,
That's
buddy.
right. Yeah, I need it to just hold in place. It needs to move around a little bit. I just need it to hold in place for now. It'll hold in place. I'll clamp it.
There you go. There's the way. There's the photos from the Wayback Machine there.
Yeah, two
So
4x8 sheets.
Yep, with a 4-inch offset. And trust me, when you start dealing with that, even the one table by itself, if you're putting it in a standard size bedroom, okay, you're going to be accessible on 3 sides. The other side, you're not going to be able to get behind it. So, not easily anyway, without moving it around and shifting it and everything else. So you're better off in the long run just building a shelf layout and planning and designing around that. And then you'll be able to freely move around the whole thing, follow your trains. It'll be great. You'll love it.
Now, you could also do, instead of just a shelf layout, do modules. And modules, the standard size module is usually about 2x4.
Yeah, I'm committed to building sectional, modular, whatever. I will never build a disposable layout ever again. Everybody should build a disposable layout. Everybody should build a quote unquote chainsaw layout getting started. But I will never build another disposable layout. I will never spend thousands or tens of thousands of dollars just to fill dumpsters.
So how did you have that backdrop attached to the wall?
I had it stuck behind. It slides down in behind my shelf brackets, and then the modules, just held it in place for now. Of course,
But
that
there was no
all
modules
back.
there.
That's right. But I need it to, I just need it to stay the way it is here, so I don't have to take it down because it's 50 feet. It goes all the way around the room. I do need to make adjustments to it, but I don't want to adjust. I don't want to take all 11 modules down of deck 3 to mess with that right now. I just need to get these modules up top because my goal is to slowly rework some of the lower modules, but I don't want to have to rework them all immediately. I want to be able to do that slowly over time. So,
and just for everybody's benefit, I don't know whether you noticed that Andy is moving away from styrofoam construction. He still uses
I'm not moving
styrofoam.
away from.
He's still using styrofoam, but not for
Yeah.
the main construction.
Yes, I am adding structural components to it. Now, the styrofoam works just fine, but as a construction methodology, but I've really, really fallen in love with this C-frame design that includes the valance and the backdrop and the whole thing goes with the thing, including things like all the wiring and all the lights and just everything is in the module. So, but when I started this layout 6 years ago, even the term TOBA, is not a term I knew at the time. I just called it sectional, Now I think it kind of is TOBA, but TOBA is a philosophy, not a building methodology. And but philosophically, it's a TOBA layout. But I was building it that way because, again, I never want to build a disposable layout again. And it's always been planned to be moved or relocated at some point. So, but
everybody seems to keep saying the same thing. Do your own thing in your own time. Do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. Well, that's fine, but the question was asked.
And see, I think the other part of that though is that people are really overwhelmed with this whole perception of elitism in the hobby and gatekeepers and all that other stuff. And while that sentiment's right, people are going to ask questions, and we're just offering advice. This is what I would do. It's kind of a situation. Take it or leave it. It's not going to hurt my feelings or anything.
That's right.
no, I want any advice I provide to anybody or any thought I have that I have of my own. I don't want anybody to take my advice as whole cloth. Take it, merge it together with, some of Robert's, tell Ralph he's wrong because any chance I can do that, I'll take. But you need to make
Of course.
you need to
Of
make, a
course.
person
I
needs to
do
make
the
their own
same.
decision about this all. However, in
I do the
contradiction to
same.
that, it seems to be these two extremes. You've got a group of people who say this is the way to do it. L girder construction, et cetera, et
Oh,
cetera,
yeah.
et cetera. That is the unquote way to do it. That's just wrong. But you've got another group of people who say there are no right or wrong ways.
But
You do
hang
whatever
on,
you
hang
want.
on.
And that is
Hang on,
wrong.
Andy. Andy, hang on. What you just go back a little bit. There's the group of people that say do L girder,
Sure.
and they say that's the only way. That's saying it's the only way is wrong. L girder's not
Yes.
necessarily wrong,
No, I agree with that. Just
right?
saying that
It's
there
saying that
is.
it's the only way is what's wrong. Yeah.
That's exactly right. To think that there is the way to build a layout is just whole cloth is just wrong. Philosophically is just wrong. However, on the other extreme, there's a lot of people who don't like that, and I also don't like that there's only one way to do it. But you have other people who say this other thing, that they say there's no right or wrong way to do anything. Do it however you want, and that is clearly wrong. Now, there are many right ways to do all kinds of things at various levels of right, or what's right for you, or what fits with your goals or ambitions, or the way you like to do stuff. But there are clearly some wrong ways to do things. I mean, I've done many wrong ways to do things. So,
Like taking a chainsaw to your scenery.
no, that's just a good Saturday evening, man.
Actually, it was good show material.
Listen, and I thought so too. And I'll tell you what, if you're a little frustrated and want to make a change, boy, it's very satisfying. And there's that concept that I've heard Joe Fugate say it. I don't know where it originally came from, but or write about it. The chainsaw layout. You build that first layout, that you plan on being disposable, and all of your money is spent as an educational experience, and you're gonna dispose of that layout as a chainsaw layout. I've literally built a chainsaw layout, even though my layout is meant to be permanent or not disposable.
So I can attest to what Sparky's saying here, and honestly, he's not wrong. You saw my first layout; it was 2 4x8 foot tables. I built and worked on that for a year and a half, give or take, and then got frustrated with it and tore it all down. Now, most of it I was able to reuse and repurpose into the second layout. Well, the tops I was. Everything else got chucked out because I can't use 2x4s and stuff too much. But why go through the headaches? That's what I don't understand. Why go through the headaches just to go through the headaches when you've got people out there who've been there, done that, and can explain it to you? A smart man learns from his mistakes, right? But a wise man learns from the mistakes of others.
Tom's Trains and Things makes a good point. L girder. I'm not a fan of L girder, but if somebody wants to use it, go ahead. And he's got a good point here. L girder is the hardest to deconstruct if you have to move.
It has some certain benefits. Very rarely do I see modelers actually utilize those benefits. So often people build L girder that is more material, more labor, thicker, more complicated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yet they don't actually benefit from the L girder. So there's that old book, Lynn Westcott's H.O. Railroad That Grows. Lynn Westcott, popular, kind of popularized or created L girder, I don't know, but popularized L girder for sure. And he built a layout and modified it over a number of chapters in that compact book. And that is a great showcase of what L girder can do for you with the flexibility to make changes. But pretty much people don't do that. That's very rare. So I really think L girder is more complicated than necessary, and few people use it in any way that it benefits them.
It's overrated.
Yeah, I agree completely. Now there are places where it excels in certain applications. It's like everything else. Right tool for the right job. Sometimes the L girder's the right tool. Sometimes.
I can honestly say I've never done a layout with L girder.
You've never what?
I've never done a layout with L girder.
Oh,
Either have I.
I have.
I,
And
st-
and
I,
again,
s- I started to, and
yeah.
I gave up on it. Didn't fit
Well,
into the area that I wanted to put it in. And like Andy said, it was taking up a lot of the lumber that I had for the layout. And I didn't have the funds at the time to go out and buy more lumber. That was one of the reasons why I went to a 1x8 board and split it down the middle to try and save money. Randall Ellis says, what I love about the hobby is the number one rule is there are really no rules, just specs for given scales. Well, there's actually two rules. And the first one is it's my railroad. The second one is if you see anything on my railroad that you question or would like me to change
Yeah.
or whatever, refer to number one.
Yeah. I love that. Good stuff.
And if you want to add a third one, here's the directions on how to get to the door.
Yep. But and as long as if people have a bad attitude or have that thing that often gets called rivet counting, which I
Yep.
despise that use of that term because I'm an unabashed rivet counter, but people can be a pain in the butt.
Oh, I
If
was
people
going to
wanna
let you have it so hard right there.
Well, I mean, there's valuable. I love criticism. Valuable criticism. The kind of criticism that
That's not
our group
criticism.
here. The kind of criticism our group provides to
That's
us, where I get
constructive
advice, and my
criticism.
railroad is infinitely better because of our group. But we do not, they criticize me or give me a hard time for the fun of it, plenty, and I deserve much of that. But there's also a tremendous amount of valuable criticism. My railroad is infinitely better because of that criticism. It's good if you can take it. But there are people out there who just want to bash people. Many of those people are sitting in their armchairs with their stack of Model Railroader magazines, a few of them with railroads being built. So don't let that criticism get to you. Build something. And if you're building something, man, as I've many said at times on our show, many times, I love this way of thinking about it. This is a hobby. It is our entertainment. If at the end of the day you are entertained, you're a success, and that's the only measuring stick that matters. But you should learn from other people. Learn things that are important about laying good track work. Because if it derails all the time, you're going to end up with a box of trains in the bottom of your closet, like many people, because it will become frustrating.
The thing here is, and this is the way I see it, you go ahead and you build the way you want to and do what you want to do. And then when you run into problems, which eventually everybody does, you lean on other people to help you solve the problems, and you end up with a better layout. Like Andy said, with the help of the group, everybody is benefits. So take it or leave it.
And people have different opinions about, we build different types of railroads. I love all of the railroads of our community here. None of them are the railroads that I would build. And my railroad is for sure not the railroad that anybody else would build. They're art forms. They're all entirely unique, of course. But what's been really valuable is kind of brainstorming before I get too knee deep in something that's incredibly and at least 3 times as complicated as it needs to be, probably. That is my own personal proclivities. But so having a kind of powwow with the guys about the show that we done a few weeks ago was me, Ralph, and Robert basically talking about 147 different conversations that we've had over the last 2 years about this crazy type of bridge I'm trying to build. And Ralph and Robert tried to talk some sense into me about some crazy ideas I've had numerous times. And we tried to kind of aggregate that into a show. That's what that hour plus show was was us just trying to aggregate and talk about all the crazy conversations that led to this crazy 7-foot bridge that I'm building, and I'm shooting video for that will be out in a week or something. So you'll see the first bit of construction for that too, which for all the things that's kind of crazy, Ralph's got 16 foot of bridges back behind him too. So it's, we all do crazy things.
This is true. But the thing is, don't be afraid to ask. Like with my modeling, I always try and think outside the box.
Yes, you do.
It's just the way I am. Andy likes to engineer things the way it's supposed to be instead of the way it's more. In case of his bridge, I think it should be straight. He's got a curved bridge.
He very strongly thinks it should be straight, by the way.
I agree with Andy on this one. The prototype has a bit of a curve. If he's got the room to put a bit of a curve, put a bit of a curve.
I agree with all of that. The prototype has that. But the prototype has abutments and what do you call it, bents or whatever, supporting those curves, whereas his bridge is not going to have that.
Well, it's going to be missing a couple. You're right. But it looks so beautiful with the curve.
And he's going to solve that in other ways. He's going to solve that in other ways.
Really?
Yep. The curve is so significant. Well, here's the biggest important thing. Because the space that I'm leaving the towers out of is not in the middle of the curve. There's much more of the bridge is over here on the thing. So actually the tower that's roughly at the center of the bridge, that's at the center of that arc, is being modeled and is a tower that's right here on the edge, that's right here on the edge of the peninsula. And then I'm missing a couple on one side. So that curve, the farthest point out on that curve, is supported all the way down through structurally. That helped.
Ralph.
Johnny.
He's going to get done with that bridge. And some engineering company's going to call him and go, hey, we've been trying for years and years to make a floating curved bridge. How'd you do it? And Andy's response is going to be, have you ever heard the Beatles song, The Magic Carpet? I got Aladdin's carpet and put it up under it to float it.
Yeah.
I think the better answer would be to tell him that he got himself some transparent aluminum.
Yeah, there you are. Yeah. Listen, I thought about doing that for a while. I mean, I've had
only a Star Trek fan would know that.
That's true.
Or it's just too much CBD oil.
Yeah.
Well played, Johnny. Well played.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
So I've been working. I told you guys I've been working on these in-scale printouts, right?
Yeah.
So I've been working in code 55 for the last 2 or 3 months or whatever that I've been actually working on these. Kind of broke it up, doing different parts. I was looking at my code 100 yesterday, and you know what my first thought was?
God, that's huge.
It's huge.
Holy shit, that's huge.
Yeah, that's my thought too.
Yeah,
that's why I'm arguing for code 70 with you and stuff in your yard.
Scale. No.
I don't know, man. There's a difference. There's a big difference. But my whole layout is all code 100.
So is mine.
And there's no way that I would go down to a code, even if I was in scale, there's no way I'd go to a code 55.
Really?
It's too small.
I run 55 at HO scale.
See, and you're high as a kite. It's that CBD oil. I'm telling you.
55, I match what's appropriate. On the main line, they had like 131, 132 pound per yard rail. That's roughly would be 81 thousandths, modeled or so 81 or whatever, 80 thousandths, 81 thousandths. So 83 is close enough. That's fine. And then the secondary lines, many of them are, some of them, the really older ones. There are some code 70, like the branch line I'm modeling. The branch line is all code 70 except for the one track of all the 5 tracks there. There's one track that is 83 because it had been relayed with continuous, welded continuous rail, and all the rest of it is, 39-foot sectional stuff that will be beat up, and it's 70 and 83. But I don't have anything necessarily against Code 100. The one argument that I would pose to anybody who's looking for things that are scenically believable, maybe not photorealistic, but scenically interesting, the value of different choices of code is when you intermix those codes. Code 100 is fine, but if you use like an 83 on a secondary track or a 70, Code 100 looks fine. But where it really excels is when you have 2 different codes nearby each other, because the eye can't tell whether it's 83 or 100 for the most part, just looking at it. But it can see when you have a code 100 and you have a little siding that's code 70, it looks diminished.
See, that's where the rivet counter comes in.
Yeah, I can't help it. But I'm not.
It's guys like you that are ruining this hobby.
Well,
CV Railroad Nacho says Boomer uses 55, 70, and 83.
I was wondering when somebody was going to bring up that name tonight.
It wasn't Andy.
Has 40. He has 40. Now
No,
he
doesn't.
soldered it down or glued it down or whatever, soldered it and contact cement or glue so that you don't have spike heads, because with code 40 in HO scale you can't get away with spike heads. But code 40 is probably artificially too small. That's like 36 pound per yard or something rail, which was gone by the turn of the century almost anywhere. The 19th century.
So have you built, Ralph, have you built turnouts in code 55?
No.
Andy?
I haven't done N scale turnouts. So
okay.
Why would I use 55?
No, I have built 70, quite a few in 70, but I've never built one from scratch in 55. I did repair some that were built in 55 on a club layout many, many years ago. But also, even though I have some 55, I won't be having any 55 turnouts. I'm just having, a couple of really old sidings that after they break off the main line, they are 55 to really make them, diminished. But I would do 55 turnouts. I just don't have a use because of my era.
I'll tell you what, I have found out and learned that doing it in 55, doing turnouts in 55, will really test your skills.
Absolutely. Sure.
No, patience isn't the problem, because I banged out 40 turnouts after I got everything all cut and filed down and everything. I banged out those turnouts in probably a day and a half. It's not hard once you get in the rhythm of it, but
that's right.
Getting the soldering to where it's not super bulky and it's nice and clean and kind of smooth, that's the trick. And you got to have the right size tip for that. I went through 3 different size tips before I figured out which one was going to work right.
Yeah, or get a resistance iron. That's the right answer for me. But I was trying.
Well, look, I know some of us can throw $600 at a proto throttle, but a lot of us can't throw a whole bunch of money at a resistance soldering iron. Okay?
Me either. I haven't bought a resistance iron either. I'm going to at some point in the future, but I haven't yet. But I know, one. Ralph, we're proud of you.
Yeah, but I didn't throw money at it. I didn't throw money at it.
No, through weathering.
Who'd you steal it from?
I weathered 5 engines for it.
Yes.
Well, that's a trade. That's fair.
Absolutely. That's a good arrangement. But one trick that will get you close, that's not the same, but that I really like, is you could buy a hot air station. It's built into mine, but you could buy a hot air station, and not just, I'm a hot air station on my own, but it needs to be a little bit more higher temperature than what I could naturally spit out. But you can buy a hot air station for about $40 or something on AliExpress or Banggood or something, $40-$45. And what I'd like to do when I'm doing stuff like that, or Code 55 or anything, it's fine. And I absolutely do this for my throw bars, because I use Z-scale switch ties, big long ties, of course, for my throw bars. And so there's not much surface area there to work with at all. So what I use is I snip a little bit of solder, an 1/8 inch long little piece of the smallest little solder I have, that little, 0.07 or 0.10 little bitty solder. I snip it, I set it in with tweezers, I hit it with the hot air, or you can hit it with a pencil iron. But if you'll snip a little piece of solder and set it in with tweezers, you can't over solder because you're only putting what solder you've dropped in place as a little stick.
How do you know
solder.
that's the right amount?
A little testing, experimentation. You've got to experiment, but I find that for the Z scale ties, like an 1/8 inch light, a little less than that, just a little bitty piece of it, of that really small solder is about the right amount. And when you heat it up, it'll sweat out. Because the way I'm doing them, it's more like sweating than it is soldering or soldering if Marty's around, so he knows what we're talking
Don't
about.
forget the silent L.
Ralph,
Yes, sir.
the only reason why you can get the right amount of solder, you have to snip it. You can't cut it. If you cut it, you get the wrong amount.
Good point. Good point.
Oh my gosh. All right. Yeah.
And then on top of that, Andy, you have to have the right solder. It's like 20 thou.
Really small. And for throw bars, I use
Tiny.
not silver bearing, but actual silver solder. You really have to lay the heat to it, which Robert's got a 60-watt iron. I'm sure Ralph go with that resistance iron. You could use silver solder. So it takes a lot more heat, but it will hold up to the abuse of that twist. They'll break eventually, but they will hold up a lot longer than traditional, rosin core solder.
There's a fix. There's a fix for that.
Are you talking about using like a pin or something, running a pin through and soldering on top of the pin?
Yes, sir.
See, I have a problem with that because of the way my points
on the switch points. Well, that's because you use cast points. Robert and I make our own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not lazy. I don't mind building my own.
No. The problem, my method takes 3 times as long as yours and it's more expensive. But what you have to do is you have to carve some rail, and Ralph, you guys too. You have to carve some stuff off the stock rail, and I don't like doing that.
Hit and run. Robert made his comment and took off. Took
Yes.
off, eh? Hit and run.
Too deep. My finger just kicked the back button. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Handle it.
Yeah, it was psychosemantic is what it was. You just hit and run, like I said. No, the reason that I like the cast points is that I don't have to modify the stock rail. I don't have to carve the foot off or cut the rail. My points snug up to the rail, kind of the way like railroads do it.
It's being lazy.
Sorry.
I mean, let's just call a spade here.
My way is more labor intensive than your way and more expensive. It's all because I'm persnickety. Oh, and by the way, in staging in places where I can't see them, I do fast track style turnouts. Thank you, Johnny, again for some of the turnouts he built me. So in fast tracks format,
where I can't see them. Are you saying you don't like the look of them?
No, I don't like the look of fast track style.
He's too persnickety.
Oh, man.
They don't have tie plates.
Rivet counter for sure. 100%.
This guy's like ruining this hobby.
Man.
But mechanically, from a physics perspective, I don't think you could beat a fast track turnout operationally.
You're dealing with such minute weights that the physics part of it is pointless.
Ralph, what I should have done when I made those turnouts, I just happened to think of it. What I should have done is taken one and got some of that double bubble chewing gum and stick it on there and leave the wrapper laying on top and put that on the top of the stack in the box.
Yep.
Well, you see his face open up that box and there's a
turnout about the same as it is right now.
Double bubble chewing gum up for the weld.
Yep. Oh, look at that. We got Curtis in the chat. Hello, Curtis.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, Curtis. I haven't seen you in a long time, buddy. Good to see you. Well, good to see you're around and chatting with us. Yeah, he only uses silver. Yeah, I don't like the trouble of using silver solder for most of the soldering that I do. But for throw bars, absolutely. I'm a fan of that. And I use the silver for my cast points that I mean, they're not cast. I have to build them up.
But the thing is, silver bearing solder is going to be just as effective as full silver solder. It's just as effective.
It's a little bit stronger. It is.
Yeah, it'll last because the problem is, and to Ralph's point about you can solder on a pin, the problem is you have a throw bar and you have a point or a couple points. They're bending, and that solder is bending. It's not meant to do that. It'll work, but over time they will break, and occasionally you'll have to fix points. It's not a catastrophe. It's not even hard to fix on fast tracks or whatever. But with mine, especially on the Z scale throw bars, because they're very narrow, I don't have a lot of soldering surface area there, and which I do use 2 and 3 throw bars depending on, like a number 10 turnout has 3 throw bars, just like the railroad does.
Okay,
but the
so
silver solder will last longer.
Let me ask you this then. What do you do? Do you put what do they call them? Fish plates, the thing on the side of the rail?
Yeah.
Do you put those on your points?
Yeah, I have bolt strips that go all the way down the sides of the
Okay,
point.
so what's the difference between me putting a pin into the throw bar through the flange of the rail and then solder it? That is never going to break away.
Yeah, you're right.
And how are your points made? They all cast in one piece?
I mean they have a pivot point going to a hinge block.
No.
Hinged,
Are the points the point rail where it joins the throw bar, is it one piece?
Yeah. I mean it could. Yeah, right. I think so. Yeah.
You don't know what I'm talking about.
No, maybe not. But the reason I can't use a pin is because of the throw bar, not because of the point. Because throw bars, the way we build turnouts, the way Atlas and Microengineering and Pico and everybody else makes turnouts has a throw bar. On the prototype, it's a rod. It's a bar. So the Z scale throw bar, it's close. It's not something the size of a tie on the prototype. So the Z scale with some bolt detail looks closer to the flat bar that they use to throw turnouts with, as opposed to that big 8-inch wide strip.
But why go down that hole when you can just throw those in as detail parts that have no actual functionality?
Well, so mine are a scale 1-inch wide. Yours are a scale 8-inch wide. No detail part in the world is going to cover 8 inches when it should be 1 inch. You can't cover up.
You're not understanding. I don't think you're understanding.
Oh no, maybe not.
Just build it. Why don't you just build the turnout the way Fast Tracks intended you to build the turnout, and then add in your little throw bars and your little floofy poofy extra shenanigans as to make it look like it. That's what I don't understand. Why are you going to rely on Z scale PC boards or whatever to do the hard work for you when you're not building it in Z scale?
Hide. Well, you just can't hide the throw bar. That a printed circuit, a full printed circuit tie as a throw bar, it's 8 inches wide. You can't hide that. It's huge. And the problem that I have with Fast Tracks on the visible layout, and even it doesn't even matter on most of the layout, but especially on like the turnouts that are right up front and center, because my layout's like, literally eye level, having a turnout right in front of you. Fast Tracks has 10 pieces of rail in various pieces cut and soldered together. It has a number of ties, maybe there's, 50 parts or something in a turnout.
No.
In
my
Fast
building methodology, there's,
No.
probably,
in
how many
Fast
parts
Tracks?
do you think there are in a Fast Tracks assembly? Sure.
2 stock, 2 frog, 2 point.
That's it. And 2 guardrails.
And 2 guardrails if you really want to go there.
And there's 10 PC ties.
And then printed circuit ties, and then a number of wood ties. But
And
you
you
still
don't
have
have
so
printed
40
circuit
parts if you
ties?
have ties and stuff.
And you don't have printed circuit ties? Give me
No,
a break.
no.
You still have ties.
Yeah, they're all wood with tie plates. I can't have printed circuit ties on the visible
Right,
layout.
right. Oh, I forgot.
Well,
Your
I tell you
1
what.
foot section is 180 pieces because of all the tie plates. and
Well,
everything.
yeah, well, regular flex track is 500, or regular 3 foot section of regular track is 502 parts in a 3 foot section, but a turnout has something like 120 parts, something like that, 110, 120. Hook tie plates, braces. Liam,
Hi, Liam.
Hey, Liam.
what's up, buddy?
You gonna say hello to us?
And then
Oh.
go do
Yeah.
bath time.
Bath time. That's awesome. That sounds like fun. That's like swimming.
It is.
Aquaman enjoys bath time.
Okay.
All right, we
We-
done hit
we-
the 10 o'clock mark, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right, have a good one, Liam.
See you, Liam.
Bye-bye.
All right, you ready to go to bath time?
Uh,
Say bye. Wait, bye.
bye.
Bye, buddy.
All right, we've hit the 10 o'clock mark. Run through the
Yeah,
schedule
you
one more
got
time real quick. April 13th is going to be the track planner Wednesday, 9 o'clock. April the 20th will be Bill with Mike Dettinger. And he's working on one more show. And my next show will be on the 21st of
Okay.
this month. So with that said, appreciate everybody coming in. Andy, Ralph, Robert, when he gets back.
Johnny.
And I appreciate everybody being in chat over here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Where'd he go? All right, the High Plains Railroad. Hope you enjoyed it. Come on back. He said he was new to the show. And we shall see y'all next week with the track planner on Wednesday. So everyone have a good night.
That'll be a good one. Come join us on Discord, everybody.
Yeah.
Robert posted that up in the top of the chat there somewhere.
Good deal.
Yeah. All right. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next Wednesday night. Hang around, Ralph, for a second.